10 bands, 50 bands, 100 bands, Uncle man. Y'all know Uncle man. This is Rooted Black Girls with Farah and Afnan, representing everyday Black millennial women of multiple faiths and cultures. And today we're talking about the cash money, the moolah. Sit back and ride out with us. All right. Hey, Farah, how are you?
Hey, Assalamu alaikum, Afnan. How are you doing?
So now I am good. I'm feeling good. Yeah. What's been going
I
on?
feel really great now. The weather's decent. I am wearing these earrings that I've never worn before. But when I was putting the outfit together, I was like, where are those earrings that I got at a Black-owned shop here in Atlanta? It's in Little Five Points called Get It Girl. And so
Yes.
definitely want to pick up them. But I think you got some drip on too, huh?
Yes, I love your earrings. I was just telling you, like the gold popping against your hair, like the contrast is A1.
Yeah.
I got Mess in the Bottle, another Black-owned brand. I think they're from Baltimore as well, but I love them. They have the shirts that are really popular that say, "Don't be afraid to be a queen, but lead like a king," or something like that. So I have that jacket as well. But a little edgy today.
Yeah, it look good. I love it. Delta red on. You should have gave me the memo.
Okay, I got you next time, sis.
And we were just talking about this, how we contrast a little bit, because there was some of them where we were trying to coordinate outfits, but it just became too difficult. And I think we had this conversation around like easy versus ease, right? Mm-hmm. And we had to release that for ease, in this process around giving y'all our message and like really communicating and creating this community. And so we decided to let that go. And so sometimes we have competing, contrasting outfits, but it works because it goes with how we're feeling in the moment.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I love it. Okay. So today's episode, we're talking about finances, right? And so something I'm nervous but excited to share is that by the time this goes out, so it's Saturday right now. So by the time it goes out on Monday, I would have been debt free, you guys. It would have been my last payment, Fed loan. Woo, so excited. Alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I am so relieved. I had like a very challenging battle with debt. So obviously like I got a car and I got a Honda Civic and it was, I paid it off and everything. And so, and then I had credit card debt. And you guys know, if you guys watched our previous episode about money and finances that we did last year, I really didn't want to leave out of 2020 with debt. Right. So I'm very, very grateful that I was able to take care of that. My student loans was like the last bit of it. And so I'm very honored because it's something that I've struggled with. I paid off the credit cards and I racked them back up and I paid them off again. I racked them back up on Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps. And so I'm excited to be able to move on and work on other things in my life. And I know it's a very controversial topic, whether to pay off debt or, pour into your business. Farah and I are trying to grow our podcast. We also, invest in stuff like that. And so trying to find the balance is interesting, but we wanted to just kind of share with you and be transparent. That credit card is bitch. Yeah. I struggle with it.
I was just talking to my homie and they were saying how they kind of allow and pay like payments for their credit card. And I'm under the philosophy of like zero that out immediately. But there are just different journeys that people are on, or different life philosophies or fiscally kind of financial responsibilities or kind of rules that they have for themselves. And so we were thinking like, we did that episode a few weeks ago about childhood traumas. When we were examining Will, we're like, okay, let's like examine childhood understandings around money and like what have we taken? What are we giving away? What are we doing with? What are we doing without? So we really wanted to look more into that.
Yes, we're definitely reflecting. So in today's episode, what we're really looking to do is, we are what we call them third culture kids, right? So we're American, we got East African, we got, Somalia, we got Eritrea. And so trying to find the balance of like, who do we want to be? What are our money, beliefs that we're going to pass on? What are we going to take from our parents and what are we going to maybe leave behind? And so, Farah, I'll go ahead and start. So, one thing that I really admire about the way my parents managed their money is they didn't have a fear of poverty. And, you know, my dad, you know, was from Asmara. And so from Masawa. And when they came, they had, you know, nothing. And they really built themselves and put himself through school. And I'm really, really proud of my dad. And for all that he's achieved. And his success was what I was able to build on. And so I give him a lot of credit, and my mother as well. But you know what, when we were growing up, we didn't have a whole lot, right? I was a food stamp baby. We grew up on food stamps. So for me, kind of what we were talking about before, money and security and safety were very like connected. And so, but my parents, even though they make and have made less than me, arguably, in my life, didn't have that fear. There was no concern. And I think where that comes from is just like a place that they had gotten to in their faith. And inshallah, one day I'll get there, where it's Allah's going to give us rizq. Allah's going to give us the blessings. Allah's going to take care of it. And I'm like, yeah, but what's your financial plan?
I know. They just don't have it. And I feel exactly the same way. When I examine where I am financially, I'm like, wow, my parents had how many kids and was like living on what type of income?
I still don't know how the numbers worked out. I still cannot for the life of me figure out how they did it.
I don't know how, they don't compute to me how they were able to feed very growing children. We're all nearly over 6 feet tall, you know, like, and can eat, you know, alhamdulillah. And it's like, how are you taking care of us? I can barely kind of, you know, take care of myself. I feel. But it's just like perspective, right? And, you know, as a kid, you only know what you know. And so I didn't know that we were living on a budget, you know? I know I didn't get the Jordans. I didn't even know that I should ask for Jordans. That's where we were in the financial place. You know, it was just like, don't come to me with that stuff.
It's nonsense.
It's nonsense. But I will say that when I look, my mom, very similar, where she just kind of like gave everything, you know, to the point where when I look at her to this day, mashallah, she doesn't, like when you look at her closet, I'm like, where are your clothes? You know, like she doesn't hoard, she doesn't collect, she doesn't buy things for herself. Like she seeks and sees a lot of value in like giving. And the woman has like, and I always call her the woman because it's like the lady, you know, it's kind of like in our family. We don't say this to her because I don't want to be slapped, but
right.
My mother is there. It's very fascinating how she gives and gives and gives. And miraculously, I don't think there's a plan there, but she has so much trust in Allah and tawakkul in Allah that she just knows that she's going to receive it back, you know? But I'm also in the same school of thought of like, what's your financial plan, bruh? Like, what are you doing right now? When I see my mom, I'm like, how are you planning for retirement?
Girl, be the retirement plan. Hello.
Retirement plan. So I remember in optometry school, we had someone from the business school come over and talk to us about like retirement and what we should be doing. And then I brought it back to my mom, I think on winter break. And I was like, yeah, I heard that you should have like $1 to $2 million in your, you know, in your accounts for retirement. And she nearly slapped me like, fear God, girl. Like, are you serious? $1 to $2 million? We don't do that, bruh. Like, this may be America, but that's not the America we're living. That's not our dream, you know? And it's like, okay. So for myself, when I look at that and examine this lesson, I'm like, okay, I want to be and have and participate in this giving spirit and know that what I give to the world, I'll equally receive, if not more, you know? Definitely want to be part of that school of thought. But I also I don't want to prepare for a calamity because who wants that? But like you don't got to get ready if you stay ready. You know, I want to be in that school of thought of like, okay, I'm not hoarding over here, you know, and seeing other people suffer and not giving, you know, I'm not just watching M's in the bank account, right?
Yeah.
But I am in a giving spirit, but I'm also like prepared.
Yeah. You're being a good shepherd of the resources Allah has given you.
Definitely. Definitely. You know, there's a balance. And even when I connected, I finally, you know, I'm in that financial place where I like got an accountant, you know, I feel grown, right?
Accountant.
And she even asked me, she was like, you know, you can definitely contribute more. You know, in Islam, what do we have? Like 2.5% miskeen. It really is miskeen because the Christian church is asking for 10% of your wages, bro. And like in Islam, it's not even like your salary or your wages. It's like, take out what you have, like the money that you have sitting in a bank account for an annual year, you know, for a year.
For a year.
It's not like what I make. Like I have friends who give 10% to their church every paycheck.
Mashallah.
Wow. You know, and Islam has given us provisions and safeties and comforts around that.
Yeah.
Like only 2.5% of what's in my savings account. So when I spoke to her and she saw how much I was giving, right? Because masjids are part of 501(c)(3)s, she was like, you could give more, you know? And she had to give me that talk on like, it's actually beneficial for you to give more. And it's in that, you know, I guess the US tax code is connected to how my mama feel, like just keep giving.
Right.
You know? And so
Yeah.
you have that. You have like what you give for zakat or sadaqah. And I think the idea of like, I think what my mom does a lot is the sadaqah of just like giving. And it's not like an actual requirement for her.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to keep that and do that a little better.
That's beautiful. Yeah. My mom has a similar belief in terms of like just giving and trusting that Allah is going to provide, right? And sometimes I look at her like, where is you taking care of you? And she's like, you know, Allah will provide. And I want to be that way. But you know, the comment that you made, the story that you know, about going through like that financial class and then coming back to your mom, I had a similar instance where I was at work and there is there's one of my peers. He's a few years older than me. He's Jewish, and everybody in the office knows that he's really good with money. And so randomly, I was just like, I overheard one of the guys' conversations because you know, guys talk about finances like every other day. Like it's just like, oh, the stocks are or whatever. And for one day, I was like, okay, I just need to understand what's going on. So I asked him, and girl, he pulled out his phone, showed me all the accounts, and he was like, there's this much money. And I was like, what do you need that for? Like, what the hell? And my parental coding and training kicked in. I was like, explain to me why you need that amount of money, right? Or, you know, and he was telling me his goals is to get like 10 million in his retirement account, you know, over the next 10 years. And I was like, how? Right? What do you need that money for? But then the kicker was, he started doing the math about like, okay, let's say you have 2 kids and you want to put them through college, and let's say college costs this much, and then you want to give them a car, and a car costs this much, and then you want to be able to, you know, pay for their wedding, and their wedding costs this much, and then let's say you have grandchildren and you want to set them up for college. He's like, the generational wealth game is what you need that money for. He's like, I don't anticipate to spend it, but it's what's going to allow me to go above and beyond for my family and set my grandchildren up. And I was mind blown because when he started subtracting $50,000 a year for a college education, for example, to the, you know, school of their choice, right? For example, and the wedding and he's like, and then let's just say you guys go meet, not even Europe or somewhere overseas. Like you guys want to go to Florida. I mean, I know you're from Florida, so that's not a big thing to you, but like, let's say you want to go to Miami, let's say you want to go to California, and you do that every single year, one family trip a year, and you have a family of 4. This is what your numbers are going to look like. And then you want to be able to stop working at a certain point without your money completely, you know, eliminating, you know? And so then I went home and I was like, Fred, we need $10 million in our, he's like, Fred literally put me out the house. He said, I don't know who the fuck you've been talking to, but we know. No.
He's over here.
Like, no. He's like, what the hell? And because I was frantic. I was like, based off of my calculations, we're 4 years behind. And Fred was just like, no.
Isn't that so fascinating of like, that's what third culture kids have to do. We have to reconcile kind of this American melting pot experience around everything. And then we have to also think about this Islamic, and then we have the cultural aspect of like, oh, the Somali in us or the Eritrean in us, or you know, the communities we share, like what that means. And that's the third culture kid of like, how do we reconcile all of these like competing and I don't want to say that they're always competing, but like even they're just
different,
just different experiences, you know? And it's something that we have to rationalize and come up with our own plan that works best for us.
Yes. Yeah. So
other things that you are going to keep, or
I think in that same breath, I think something that I really wish my parents would have helped me understood is that it really does take generations, right? I was really naive, and I don't know if it's a function of like the conditioning or like the rhetoric that we kind of got when we were growing up, but I really thought like if you went to college, right, and you were responsible and you didn't rack up a whole bunch of debt and you paid off your student loans and you got a good job and you bought your house, you were straight, right?
Yeah.
And my experience has been, as I've gotten older and more aware of the money game that our counterparts are playing, that it's more to that. And it is a generational game. You know what I mean? I really thought like once I got out of college and I got like a job making, you know, a decent amount of money, $50,000, $60,000 is what I thought was like great, right? That I would be set. And I realized that the image that I had of success in my mind did not match that. You really have to be debt free for that money to do what I thought it was going to do, right? You really have to have a 401k plan in order to retire at the age I thought I was going to retire on. You know what I mean? And then in my mind, I was like, well, I want to do family vacations, for example, like, you know, the gentleman was saying, and I want to be able to, you know, help my siblings out. And if, you know, 5 years from now, they want a car, as the oldest, again, conditioning, I should be able to extend my experience and my money to them. I want to be able to set my kids up with college fund. I want to do, and as I'm crunching numbers, it's really, really difficult to do that. And then we want to, you know, like we said in the last episode, you know, we want to buy some drip, we want some exclusive, we want some nice threads. And the numbers just weren't adding up. And I had to really, because I had like a low key, like a breakdown, like, damn, like this is never going to end, right? You figure, okay, once I just get out of debt, then I'm going to do this. And then do this. And it just, then you realize like, no, then there's 401k, and then there's all this other stuff. Then there's investing. And, you know, that's aside from if you want to have a business and grow your business and all these other things. But the generational game really is that it's generational. And I may not see that in my life. Like, of course, speak things into existence. I know I'm going to be successful. I really feel, alhamdulillah, blessed at where I'm at right now. So I don't feel lacking, but I really thought that from my parents to me, I was going to see a bigger jump. And I'm not struggling, alhamdulillah. Like, I'm making good money. I work for a good company. And I just was really humbled and surprised by, you know, the folks that I might be comparing myself to at work. Their family knew that, and their grandparents were setting them up for this, right?
This is now a thought that now I'm thinking about. My mom, and specifically my mom, she's always like, you're not going to be buried with this stuff. You know, like you're just holding on to it. But then from what you're saying, maybe we will in a way of like, it's not going to be like in a pyramid tomb, right? Like I'm not going to with my fortunes. I'm not King Ramsey, you know, it's more that when we're creating and really trying to create this pipeline towards generational wealth, it's under the vein of it's not that we're hoarding, but that we're creating some level of generational wealth for our families. So I wonder, like, then how do we save, give, and create generational wealth? This sounds tough to do to me.
It's challenging. If I had the answer, I'd be telling you. But honestly, I'm still trying to figure it out. I think for me, the priority has always been to make sure like my family is good. But then at a certain point, I realized in order to really give for my family, I got to take care of myself first. Right.
So then that's it. Afnan, like, so then you're saying your coworker, he's looking and thinking about the future of his family, but he's not having to, as you know, as immigrant children, our parents set us up so that we can pour back into them.
Yep.
So how do we do this pendulum swing in both directions of like, I'm pouring into my future and the generations that we're creating here versus, oh, I'm also pouring back into my family because I'm the retirement, bruh.
Yeah. And I think you're 100% right. And I think for me, I think the first step is you have to understand what your goal is. Like ideally, like I have two parents, right? And they have both separate families at this point. And I feel responsible for both of them. Right. And so if I could have it anyway, I would retire them both. That's two households. It's not just one, it's two, right? Yeah. And so I'm thinking about like, okay, that kind of income, I'm going to have to find a way to generate that kind of income, right? And then even beyond that, but then I also have to be fair and gentle with myself that it's like, how can I be a good shepherd of the income I'm getting from my safe, good job, right? To make sure that I'm straight. But then what can I do on the side that's fulfilling and that's authentic to me to generate funds to do the other auxiliary things that I want to do, like retire my parents, like travel, like give back, or, you know, like one of my dreams honestly has been like to build a masjid, you know, like sadaqah jariyah, like, you know, because Lord knows I need all the help that I can get. I would love to be able to, you know, in the name of like my family, build a mosque. And maybe it's not like the big ones here in the States. Maybe it's back home, right? or a school or something like that. And maybe we don't pay for the whole thing, but something to make a difference beyond my own life. And I think also being kind, that, you know, like Allah says, everything bil niyat, right? Like I think it's kul shay bil niyat in Arabic, which is everything with intent, right?
Yes.
And so I think
that's my phrase.
I know that's your phrase, right?
Yeah.
And so just trying to do the best that I can. And then slowly in life, I found that, like, subhanAllah, there's been opportunities that I didn't think I would have to give back. And it's not always money, right? Sometimes it's knowledge, like what we, you know, and hopefully like what we're doing, trying to do here on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's connection, and it's not always financial. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm really thinking around the idea around generational wealth is that, do you have to exploit people to have that level of wealth? You know?
Yeah.
So I think, and I don't want to speak out of turn or say something super negative, but I think is wealth, right? Because wealth is just, it's like money that continues and moves without your finger like pointing the button, right? It's money that's bigger than you.
Mm-hmm.
Does that take exploitation, and is that kind of like a white man's game?
Ooh,
you know?
Go ahead, finish. I want you to finish.
I'm thinking around that idea, because when we're talking about building a masjid, like that sounds communal to me, and it sounds very rooted. And I guess white folks do this too. They're going to build a church, right? So I don't want to say that it's completely like white supremacy rule, you know, and but I do want to examine what we feel generational wealth is, right? Like, and not just take on these supremacist ideas, right, around what generational wealth looks like. And I think you beautifully said that with the type of sadaqah, like creating a masjid that will continue to create generational kind of success for your family. But who's the measure of this success is what I'm asking, you know? And it sounds like we really have to examine, you know, and kind of do this marriage between, and not just fall in line with what this country has told us what success looks like. Absolutely. You know, success can look like communal wealth, right? It's like, the community here, and there's this new developing community that I'm living in, and like making people who are homeowners also connected as business owners in the neighborhood, you know, and that's creating kind of this wealth and creating rooted experiences for their families, right? But does it look like an exorbitant amount of money where I'm sitting on a pile of money like I Dream a Genie? Like, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I agree with you. And I think for me, when my coworker sat me down, I initially had the same reaction, like, this is just white people shit. This is greed. And I realized once he started breaking it down, he's like, it's not about having the money. It's about, there's going to come moments where I want to give my family these things. And that's the generational part of it. It's not to make my family even more wealthy. It's to afford them opportunities that was given to me, and then extend them, because that's what's required of me as a parent, as a father. That's my job, to do that for them, is to give them, let them learn from my mistakes, and then to, you know, and to let them expand on that. And then I think when he said it to me like that, I was like, if money wasn't an object, what I would be doing? I was like, I would be freaking paying the bail money for these people on the front lines, because I know my ass ain't going out there. Unfortunately, but I want to do that, right? Yeah. Or when a young, promising young Muslim woman is running for president, let's speak it into existence, or whatever the case may be, right?
You want to take private interest money, so you want to pay to her campaign.
Boom.
Ooh, love that.
Stuff like that, right? Stuff like that, that is still connected with my core values, but does take money, right? Or, you know, my brother wants to do a business, and I'm going to drop a couple bands to help him with his startup, interest free, so he doesn't have to go through the banks and go down that sticky slope. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's not perfect, and I'm still trying to figure it out. To your point, there is a balance, because either way you can get caught up in that, and I think I'm still working through what that looks like. So I think you raised an excellent point.
I do want to shift this, because there is something that I also love that my mom does to this day that I think helps creating kind of this generational wealth. And I've actually seen on kind of the American circuits, you know, where it's becoming quite popular. We call it hutbet, where we kind of, it's communal money, where one person gets paid, but everyone's pouring into these like,
Yes. Like,
right?
I think we call it uqub.
Exactly. Right. And I
Yeah.
think there's a form of this around the world that people do this. It's this like interest-free savings account.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. My mom still does this to this day. And it's
Yes.
really the only way that she knows how to save money.
Yeah.
It's the only way where she's just like, okay, that's something that I want. Let me go into this Hugbutt account and like work with people so that I can get this large sum of money at one time so I can pay for this thing. So that's something that I think would be great on maybe a grander scale, you know, in creating kind of exactly what you're saying around generational wealth.
Yeah.
Is that something that you feel like you would continue on?
Oh, listen, we do uqub in this house. Listen,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like, when we're talking about like things for like, we're always trying to navigate some of the haram out of our society, right? And so
interest.
yeah, so like putting the down payment on your house, right? So that you can go through guidance, like an Islamic bank to get your house, or, you're trying to pay off your debt. Like, we did some of that too. And then, even like paying for weddings and stuff like that's very common to do. And I think there's a beauty in that. And to your point, I think it was you who told me that there's someone who's developing an app. And I think that's going to change the game for so many people.
One of the nurses at my job, she came up to me and she was like, Dr. So-and-so, she was like, my family's doing this, but I know like your family comes from like East Africa. Do you guys do this? And I was like, you already know, you know?
You've been about this life.
I know. And so I don't know what it's called, but they do this like flower petal system where it's just like 4 people and then another set of 4 people, right?
Okay.
And then one person who comes in the middle and gets the money, they close the petals. It's really cute. And they're starting an app around this. And so I thought it was really cool. They're finding kind of a pain point for brown communities, Black and brown communities, and they're figuring out ways to save that really, I think, kind of hones into our communal sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I love that.
And I think that's the beauty in kind of seeing our parents' journey and what they did. And then in addition, seeing kind of this American journey and finding, and Huda always says this. We always talk about Huda, our friend of the pod.
Yeah, I love Huda.
She always says, like, when she sees an experience, she's beautifully, mashallah, will take the good and leave the bad.
Mashallah.
So I think that's it. We're just continuing to examine like, hey, what is good? What's bad for me? I don't think things are as black and white as good and bad, but like on the spectrum of like, what am I going to take? What am I going to leave? What am I taking? What am I leaving? What am I extracting small ideas from and formulating new plans that I think will be kind of this hypothesis or thesis for how I want to lead my life, But yeah, I'm excited about this financial journey that I'm going into. I cannot pay off my student loans like you. Like these professional programs will kill you, and they have.
I'm sure.
So alhamdulillah, I hope
it's dry for you that one day you will be able to.
Fiscally free, So I just kind of take it as like, oh, okay, that's a payment that I have to take care of on a monthly basis, But there are things around like my car. That was a goal before COVID hit. My goal was to get rid of it in 1 year. And I was on that track. And then of course I slowed down because I was like, oh, okay, I don't know what
to be like, a little conservative. Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's a 2-year plan. So inshallah by next August, that thing should be gone.
Hey.
But I think it's a beautiful thing that we have this intersectionalities where we can make beautiful decisions around what's best for us.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that. We're going to leave it here.
Yeah, we hope to further expound on this conversation moving forward. We've done some financial kind of fiscal conversations before, and we're learning more and more every day. We'd love to hear from our listeners and supporters here around what you guys are doing, what are you taking, what are you leaving, and what do you hope to gain in the future, around how you proceed financially. Yeah.
Yeah, and then what things have you learned from your parents? Definitely hit us up in the comments, send us some DMs, let us know what you guys think. We love to hear from you.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Peace.